Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as you all know, I have already published around 7 YouTube sessions on TRICENTIS Tosca test design specialist concepts. So if you recollect, I have explained you about the test sheets where you'll be creating attributes and you'll be creating instances for every attribute, and then how can we combine these instances by using linear expansion method so that you can use this test sheet as a test data while automating your test cases. So I will suggest you guys to go through that particular video session before you visit this particular session. So the link which is displaying on your screen will take you to the corresponding test sheet related session, because this is a prerequisite for you guys to understand this session. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notification whenever I publish more videos on TRICENTIS Tosca concepts or any other technical concepts. Thank you. Okay, so this is our lesson 8 on TRICENTIS Tosca test design specialist concepts. So in this session, I'm going to cover very important topic called classes. How can we create classes in test design module by using TRICENTIS Tosca tool? And how can you modify and use these classes? When can you create these classes? What is the purpose of the classes in Tosca? And how many ways of creating classes? So I'm going to explain all these theoretical concepts at the beginning of this particular video, and then I'm going to walk you through the TRICENTIS Tosca tool with an example, and I will show you practically how to handle all these theoretical topics. So as I told you, it is very important for you to revisit one of my video under test automation specialist playlist. So let me introduce the concept of classes. So a class allows an attribute to be reused multiple times. So if you remember my one of the video in test automation specialist, I have explained you about test libraries where you will be identifying the reusable test steps, and then you are going to create a library as a test step blocks, correct? So you will be identifying the test steps which can be reused in multiple test cases. For example, login. So in the login, you'll be creating one library where you will be specifying these test steps of creation of the username, entering the password, and clicking on the button. So you'll be converting these steps to library so that you can reuse again and again, right? In the same way, in test design also, there is a concept of class where you will be creating a class so that you can utilize the attributes again and again multiple times in multiple test sheets. And classes can also contain whole structure and the combination. That means, see, in my previous videos, I have already explained you about test sheets. So if you see on the screen, this is how you create a test sheet. Under test sheet, you are gonna create attributes manually, and then you are gonna create instances under each attribute manually, correct? So once you prepare one test sheet, what if you need these kind of attribute and instances combinations multiple times in multiple scenarios? Are you going to create these test sheets again and again by defining all the attributes, instances, combination of the instances again and again? No, that is redundancy, correct? So you want to avoid the redundancy. so that you can save more time. So that's the reason we will be using these classes that contains whole structure of your attributes and the combinations of your attribute and instances. And also, classes should be created if redundancy is expected. So as I explained you, if there is any redundancy that you are expecting in future scenarios, so you will be creating classes. In a test sheet, classes are shown as a reference. That means if you are using any class in when any one of the test sheet, then those classes will be showed under references. Okay, same as library. So whenever you use a library reusable test step blocks in one of your test case, then that particular step will be showed as a reference, right? So what we do generally to modify your test steps which is referent to your library, we generally resolve the reference and then you work on this, correct? In the same way, same concept, classes also, whenever you reuse your classes in multiple test sheets, those classes will be shown as the references. Okay, and classes can save time and your effort because I need not to create the same test data combinations in test sheet multiple times. I can simply use my class, right, where it contains your attributes, instances and test data combinations. So that's the reason it saves a lot of time and effort. And classes and their references are updated automatically. What does it mean? Means if you are updating your class, let's assume you created one class called login. Now you are using this entire class which are having the test data combinations, login combinations, different valid, invalid and whatever, different users, user 1, user 2, user 3. You created one combination, right? You created it as a class. So now if you use this class in multiple test sheets, right, then if you make any change one of your class, then the change will be reflected in multiple test sheets wherever you use this particular class. It's very advantage, correct? So very important guys, I'm going to show you with examples how can we use these classes. There are 4 different ways of creating classes. The first method is create class manually on test case design module, right? On test case design module under a folder with the context menu. That means you can just right click, you will see the context menu called create a class. What is second method? Second method is you can drag and drop your existing attribute from the test sheet, okay, to one of the folder under test case design module. That means you are basically using your existing attribute, converting your existing attribute to a class. So that is another way. And third way is extract class from an entire test sheet by right clicking and choosing an option called extract class. That is third method. Fourth method is you can also derive class from modules, right? There is a module called modules in TRICENTIS Tosca. So if you visit my previous videos related to automation specialist, right? So you will understand what is module called, okay? So you can derive your class from the module also. So these are all the 4 different ways. But in this session, I'm going to talk about first 2 ways of creation of the classes. Okay. So now the first method is creation of the class manually. So this is similar to creation of your test sheet in test case design folder. In the same way, you will be creating your class. So you will go to your test case design module and right click on one of the folder and then you will be selecting an option called create class. And then you are going to define all the attributes, instances and the combination of the instances by using linear method in the same way where I have explained you while creating the test sheets in Automation Specialist. So that's the reason it's very important for you to visit that session. So creation of the class manually is same as creation of your test sheet. So here, instead of creating test sheet, you will be selecting an option called class. And then you will be defining your attributes, instances, and the combinations. Okay. So hope you understand. Okay. So what is my second method of creation of the classes? The second method is drag and drop. So if you drag and drop your existing attribute structure from your existing test sheet, which contains instances and the combinations at the top level, right? Then a class will be created and the existing attribute will be converted to a reference. That means, let's say you have already created one test sheet for one of the test data combination for your test case. So you can basically convert any attribute within that particular test sheet, right? Or any attribute structure within the test sheet to a class by dragging and dropping. But the condition is your attributes, your instances and the combination should be at the top level. Okay, so keep in mind. So I'm going to show you practically, then you will understand clearly. So what about this within the second method? If you drag and drop an existing attribute, okay, or an existing attribute structure which does not contain the instances and the combinations at the highest level, right? So under particular attribute, if you don't have your instances and combinations immediately at the top level, then if you drag and drop, you will get two options. One is create class from attribute, which copies the attribute and the instance structure, as well as automatically it copies the combinations also, test data combinations. Okay, that is first option. Second option, it will give you to select an option called create structure from attribute, which copies the attribute and instance structure but will not copy the combinations. Okay, so these two options will be given to you if you are dragging and dropping your existing attribute where instances and combinations are not at the top level. Okay, so when I walk you through the Tosca tool, then you will clearly understand these concepts, but keep this in mind. Okay, as I explained you, whenever you use a class in any one of the test sheet as an attribute, then it creates a class reference. So this is how it looks like. So whenever an attribute converts to a class reference, an arrow mark will be shown to that particular folder. Okay, a class reference is an object in a test sheet that refers back to the original class. Okay, it can be resolved via context menu. That means if you want to make any change and you don't want to impact your class, the main class, right? You have to resolve your reference and then do some changes locally. So as I told you, how can we use classes in multiple test sheets? So if you see on the screen, in the left portion, person is a class. I created a class called person which has the entire attribute structure, right? So now I can use this class in multiple test sheets, in test sheet 1, test sheet 2, and test sheet 3 and test sheet n, right? And then because you are using a class in particular test sheet, the attribute will be showed as a reference. Okay, if you can see on the screen, right? So this is how you can use your classes in multiple test sheets instead of creating the combinations and attributes again and again, which saves lot of time. Okay, so without wasting our time, let's jump onto the system and see how can we create instances, how can we use the instances, what are all the different ways of creating the instances, and where we can use these instances. Okay, so whatever theoretical particle part I explained you, I'm going to explain practically. Let's jump onto the system.
So this is my Tosca, right, where I have test case design module, test case module, modules, requirements and execution, right. So I have covered all these topics in test automation specialist. So right now for this session we will be working on test case design module. So in my previous session, if you remember, I have created a session 7 where we created all the values, right, for this particular test sheet, right. So probably you can just visit my previous video to understand this entire test sheet. Now for this new session, I'm going to copy this entire folder and then let's paste it to the main folder. Okay, so now let's rename this as session 08 create and adopt classes. Okay, and now let me create at a parent level. I would like to create another folder called classes. Okay, classes. So now as I told you, so let me create another subfolder here. Okay, let's say session 08 create and adopt class. Okay, so we created a new folder with the test data sheet whatever we created from previous session, and also I created another new folder called classes and then subfolder called session 8. Okay, so now there are two ways. As I told you, the first method of creation of the class is right click and select class from a context menu, right. Just click on this and then once you create a class you can define your instances, attributes, everything as same as the method which we used while creating test sheet. Okay, that is one way of doing. So let me delete this. So the second way, what is our second way? So for that, let me go to my session 8 and expand your test sheet and expand your processes under order products. Now I would like to focus on this product attribute called product, which has the entire structure whatever we created earlier. We have created instances called physical, digital, free shipping, all these things, right. Let me keep this aside. Now focus on two things. One is focus on folder which we created under classes, and focus on folder called attribute called product. Now I would like to create a class from an existing attribute called product. Okay, as I explained you just need to drag and drop product existing attribute to the folder under test case design. So I'm going to drag and drop to the folder under classes. So as soon as I drag and drop, what happens? It's going to create a new class which represents C, correct? And if you expand this, I can see all the instances, product and everything got transferred here, correct? A class is being created with all the instances and attributes, and also the test data combinations and also the combinations. If you go back to your session 8 folder, whenever you drag and drop your existing attribute and the structure to form a class, if you see this folder changed as a reference, class reference, that means this attribute is referring to a class. Okay, so now we created a class and then we are adapting this class, correct? So first of all, we created a class. How to adapt the class? So to adapt the class, first of all, let me go back to my class, and now I would like to create 3 additional instances. See, I'm using existing attribute from the existing sheet. I created a class. Now I want to adapt this class. Before adapting this class, I would like to make some changes to this class so that I can use this entire class as a reusable class. So for that, let me just create couple of instances, right? The new instance called physical second product. Okay, and let me do another instance called digital high quality. Okay, this is another instance, and I would like to create another instance called not applicable. Okay, so what we did, we created a class from the existing attribute. Now I modified this class to have an additional attributes. Right, so let me fill these additional attributes. Okay, the first one I would like to make it as physical, product type as physical. This is my first combination, and the combination is, for article I would like to use casual golf belt. Right, this is my second product. I would like to order one, and then this is again physical, and let me order blue jeans. So if you see my previous videos, you all know how to enter all these things. Okay, and then let me order 51, and the last one is the last one is not applicable, so I don't want to fill anything. Okay, so means we modified the existing class. Now we've created a class, right? Now, and modified our class by adding some additional attributes. Okay, now I would like to use this class, correct? So for that, let me do one thing. Let me create an additional one more folder here. Okay, I'm talking about test sheet, I'm not talking about classes. Okay, I'm just copying this entire folder, and then let me paste this here, and now this time let me rename this as use class and complete test instances, complete instances. Okay, now let's go here again, expand your test sheet. Okay, now expand your process, order product. Okay, so now what I want to do is, I would like to use this class under this product, right? For that, under this test sheet, so that means I already created an attribute called product, right? I would like to add another product. Okay, another product combination. Okay, for that, what I want to do, just drag this product and drop onto your order products. Okay, that means I am using a class to one of the test sheet. Just drop here. So what happens, as soon as you drop, it created a duplicate called product underscore 1. So that for this, I would like to rename this as, let me rename this as first product, and then rename this as second product. Okay, so if you see, let me show you one thing. Okay, whenever I earlier what we did, we added under class, we added 3 additional attributes. Let's see, these 3 additional attributes are reflecting under test sheet. Okay, let me expand this, because I created this class from this attribute and it became reference of this class, right? So if you expand this attribute, if you see, as soon as I add additional instances in classes, automatically those instances are reflecting in my test sheet. Correct? In the same way, just now we created another folder, correct, this folder, and I dragged and dropped here. So if you see, the attribute, the previous attribute has these three additional instances, and the new attribute, when I dragged and drop here, it has 3 additional instances, right? So now I just reused my class in the sheet. Now I renamed these attributes as first product and second product, correct? So now, because we added 3 additional instances, I need to add these additional instances at higher level also, correct? So let me add 3 additional instances as I explained you. One is, let's create a second physical. Let me create another instance called physical plus digital shipping cost. Let me add another instance, okay, which is physical plus digital free shipping this time, okay, free shipping. So now what I did, I have added 3 additional instances at order product level, okay. Now let me fill all these values. So this first product is already existing product from my previous sheet, right? For this we added 3 additional instances. For that, let me just select physical, and this one again physical. I'm just forming combinations, okay, and then physical, okay. Now here, for this, I want, because we added a new attribute called not applicable, right? So for second product, this is not applicable. I would like to make this as also not applicable, okay. And so let me explain in different way, okay. Let me do one thing. Oh shit. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me first select, for this, let me select physical second product. For this, I would like to select digital, and then for this, I would like to select digital high quality. See, these attributes we recently created from your classes, right? The same attributes I'm using here, okay. And now rest all I would like to populate as not applicable. For that, there are 2 ways. You just select this, fill empty values, specific, and then just select not applicable and click on not applicable. So it's going to fill all as not applicable, okay. So that means what we did here is we have created a class, right, from an existing attribute from one of the test sheet, and once we create the class, we created 3 additional instances, right, for that particular class, and then I'm reusing this class under test sheet as a second product, and now I formed all those combinations here, okay. As soon as I reused my class under one of the test sheet, I'm able to populate all the instances directly. I need not to create all these attributes again. I need not to create the values. I need not to enter the attribute values, etc. I'm just reusing it, and then I just adopted that particular class to my one of the test sheet. This way you can you can reuse this attribute or a class in multiple test sheets. Whatever the test sheet you want, you can reuse. But let's assume if I want to modify this class by adding some additional instances, right? For that you need to resolve the class. See, if you right click on this particular, because this is a reference of your reusable class, so right click, just click on resolve class reference, it becomes normal folder, then you make changes. Okay, that's very important. Okay, hope you all understand the practicality of this particular class. Why do we use this class? In multiple ways we can create the class, correct? It's very important for any redundancy. Instead of wasting your time in creating the same attributes and instances multiple times, you can create class and then use this class in multiple test sheets. Hope you are clear on this concept.
Hope you all understand the concepts of classes, okay, which is very important in Tosca while automating all your test cases. Okay, if you have any questions, please leave your comments in in the comment box so that I can reply with my answers. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more concepts. Don't forget to share and like the video. Thank you.